In this video, I'm going to talk about the Macintosh in acknowledgement of Vintage Macintosh Month, known as Macintosh. There was only one model just called Macintosh, and that was the first one. The Macintosh was released January 24th, 1984, discontinued October 1st, 1985. It had a Motorola 68000 processor, running at 8 MHz. It had 128K of RAM soldered to the logic board. This will not be a comprehensive review of the machine. I'm just going to talk about a few things, but first some background. The Macintosh was released just as the home computer market began to crash.
Damn! The tough times in the computer business were evident at last week's CES show in Chicago. Lots of booth space reserved for computer companies went unused, but the space was quickly grabbed up by the makers of X-rated video cassettes. Apparently that part of the home entertainment business is doing just fine.
For the first time in the history of Apple computers, Apple will be shutting down 4 of its manufacturing plants for a week. Employees in California, Texas, Ireland, and Singapore are being forced to go on paid vacation for a week as Apple attempts to bring its bloated inventory down. Analysts say the personal computer industry is at a standstill, with most sales at the corporate level, where Apple is still weak.
So the Macintosh did not take off the way Apple and Steve Jobs had hoped. Some of the blame was how impractical it was with the limited memory, minimal software base, no hard drive option, and an unusual lack of expandability for the time.
It doesn't do anything?
The Macintosh took one of the most powerful microprocessors available at the time and nearly brought it to its knees with its graphical user interface. Steve's vision was often at least a step beyond the day's technology limitations, resulting in an underpowered first Macintosh. And projects that followed, like the Unix-based Big Mac, outright failed. The 1985 Apple reorganization took Steve Jobs out of the top role as chairman and as the Macintosh Group lead. Did away with the internal competitive structure Jobs had built between the Apple II and Macintosh divisions, and replaced it with a more traditional corporate structure. Now John Sculley was the leader, John Louis Gasset heading up hardware development, and left Steve Jobs vowing that the war for Apple was not over by a long shot. Steve Wozniak took off, selling off much of his Apple stock, like 3 million shares. Things were crazy. But back to Macintosh. In September 1984, Steve announced the 512K Macintosh, nicknamed Fat Mac. The release date was reportedly pushed up due to the availability of larger RAM chips, but the limitations of the original was probably another big reason. Available October 1st was a 512K logic board upgrade for buyers of the original Macintosh, $995 US. Customers of the original Macintosh, struggling with the machine's limitations, felt betrayed at that price. But not to worry, as a gift for being early adopters of the Macintosh, Steve offered the MacDraw and MacProject for free with the upgrade, a $250 value. Those users responded that the programs were worthless to them. They wanted the board with a steep discount. That was not going to happen. And it technically wasn't as simple as replacing the RAM chips using a soldering iron. So the upgrade was completely replacing the logic board with a new 512K board. The 128K continued to be sold, but to streamline manufacturing, the same revised logic board was used for both. The new 128K got its own nameplate and was apparently not very popular based on how rare these are now. The upgrade didn't stop third-party vendors from offering their own cheaper route to 512K. What the hell? Or MacSnap, which snapped over the existing chips. Oh, and the free software deal was only for US customers. What the heck? Our money is as good as anyone else's, dude. Why can't Apple Canada handle that? In my video on the 512K, I focused on a Macintosh I found at a thrift store, which turned out to be one of those officially upgraded original Macintoshes. The upgrade provided a new aluminum nameplate, and a new sticker for the back as part of the package. The serial number of this thrift store Mac was very early, and if I type it into this decoder webpage, it tells me it was the 2,462nd Macintosh ever built. Manufactured the week of the original Macintosh introduction in January 1984. It was purchased by Joseph Samuels, making him one of the first Macintosh users. Not just a pioneer, but a true Macintosh fan. He held on to this machine right to his death in 2015. He even named one of his pet dogs Macintosh. Over half of the original Macintosh buyers paid $500 more for a second floppy drive, and Joseph was no exception. A second drive helped keep your sanity. Only the 1987 Macintosh SE shipped with dual internal floppy drives, and by then the need wasn't nearly as great, with hard drives becoming more popular. Joe would also later get the 800K upgrade to the internal floppy drive, which required replacing the original ROM chips with double capacity Mac Plus ROM chips. Anyway, I discovered Joe's machine suffered a clock battery leak, which may or may not have wrecked the analog board. The question I often get is, did I get Joseph's Macintosh running again? Well, I'm finally ready to give it a go. Because the first Macs up to and including the Macintosh Plus used the same analog board, finding a replacement board is the easiest fix. Component repairs are not my specialty. I bought a set of 3 non-functional compact Macs, hoping for an analog board replacement. I paid $100 for the 3 Macs, so I'm not fooling around. I know, Canadian money looks weird, eh? 2 Macintosh Plus units plus a Classic 2. The Classic 2 does nothing to help. Now, interestingly, the 2 Mac Pluses come from opposite ends of the Mac Plus timeline. One is a 1985 512K Mac that was upgraded to a Plus. That was a crazy upgrade. You needed a new rear bucket because of the changed port layout, plus a new 800K disk drive, plus a new logic board. That's almost everything. The other, a used-to-be platinum colored Macintosh Plus from 1989. That one shows an error. The 1 indicates a ROM error. Eesh. And the screen flickers, indicating bad solder joints on the video cable connector. That upgraded Mac Plus from 85 just shows digital static on the screen. Turns out there's no RAM installed on the logic board. Helps. Just the fact that I'm getting something on the screen with these 2 machines means the analog boards are functional. I think our donor machine is obvious. No, not the Classic 2. I want to keep Joseph's Macintosh as original as possible. So I'm going to detach the analog board at the anode cap. I probably don't have to tell you to ground the CRT should you do this. Interestingly, the cap is sealed with a rubber cement. I don't think you see that on the newer ones. Okay, I've cut the seal, and now removing the anode. There. Okay, get this thing out of here. With the bad board out, I just swapped in the good board from the donor Mac. And close it up. Okay, here we go. Good luck to us all. Moment of truth. Yes, it lives again. Now the screen isn't too centered, but one victory at a time. How's the brightness? Wow, decent. As a dumb teenager, I was oblivious to the Macintosh when it released, thinking my TI-99 4A would be my vehicle to the future of computing. Joseph, on the other hand, recognized the future of computing in the Macintosh and bought the first one he could get his hands on. Yet I eventually had the same transformative moment when I first used a Macintosh SE. The same moment many of us had. The reason we're still talking about it to this day. So thanks for watching this quick tribute to the Macintosh. And thanks to those who watched my latest video on the iMac 8100. I didn't realize it until it was too late, but there was a piece left out of the 8100 video by accident about Jack McHenry's fate.
Damn!
Hopefully I'll be able to reassemble it into the main video at some point, but here it is now for what it's worth. And happy Macintosh! As for McHenry, he continued on with Apple at a deservedly high level until Steve Jobs took power. At that point, he was told to get his current project, the Macintosh G3, out the door, then get out the door himself to make room for Steve's crony from Next, John Rubinstein. But even knowing this, McHenry felt duty-bound to stay on until the job was done.
And we've had exceptional success with this product. We've sold over 500,000 of these in the first 6 months of the product's life, making it the most successful new Mac in Apple's history.